What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Talking Into Infinity, a Dream Theater podcast. I am your host, John. With me is my good buddy and my co-host, Brian. How's it going? You apparently are having a few margaritas over there before the show.
One and a half. It's going good, man. I can't believe it feels like it was like 3 months ago we did a show, doesn't it? But it was only 2 weeks.
Yep. Here you go with the 2 weeks thing again, man.
I know.
Eventually you'll get used to the
I know.
time.
At some point I'll get used to it. But yeah, didn't we have it snowed on Mother's Day, I think, like a couple of days after we had the show or something before? Remember that?
Yes. Yeah, it was like snow on the ground for our last episode, and now today it's almost 90.
Yeah. Welcome to Ohio, right?
Exactly. Welcome to Cleveland, man. So why don't we start out the show with some pretty cool news for us? We were asked this week, and obviously happily accepted, we were asked to be members of the CMS Podcast Network, which is a branch of the Classic Metal Show. There's a bunch of really great shows on there. Skull Sessions is on there. At least for the next few weeks, Talk To Me's on there. Obviously, you can see all the segments of the Classic Metal Show. So it's basically going to throw the show all over the place. A whole bunch of more platforms where you can see us at. The CMS Podcast Network has a Roku and an Amazon channel that you can watch all the video clips on. There's some really great stuff there. Dude, how unbelievably cool is this? Like, it's our 10th episode, and already we're being asked to get on a platform that has 20,000 freaking subscribers on it.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I mean, I love the idea of crossing over into different territory, and maybe we pick up a bunch of new fans and listeners, and we can turn our listeners and fans on to some other stuff too. I think it's going to be a great thing.
Yep. I completely agree. It's I can't thank my buddy Chris Aiken enough for asking us to do that. I've done some guest spots on his show, The Classic Metal Show, and it's huge, man. It's huge. Hey, there's Adam Rishog. There's our buddy Adam. Thanks, man. Much appreciated. He says, "Wow, exciting news. Congrats, guys." Thank you, Adam. We appreciate it. Aiken is one of my best friends, and he runs a very, very good business over there, and to be asked to be a part of it is pretty cool. So yeah, we're excited about that. So, in the future, we'll have a lot more information about where you can catch us. Obviously, we'll have some stuff on the screen about it and everything, and on all of our social medias and whatnot. But we're getting a website, which we didn't have before because I don't know crap about websites. So we're technological idiots, and we're hooking up with a guy who does tech for a living. So that's pretty good for us. So with that said, let's jump into tonight's topic. Hey, it's my buddy Jerry. What's up, Jerry? How's it going, man? Jerry's a very good friend of mine from Lima. What's up, man?
Awesome.
So this is a topic that you came up with, and I'll be completely honest, I was very nervous about doing this one. Because I think you have a lot more knowledge in this area than I do. But you wanted to do each of us pick our top 10 favorite Dream Theater side project songs. So what was your inspiration for coming up with this?
I just thought it would show, all the other different avenues and musical type of things that these guys do. There's just, and I think you're giving me a little too much credit, which, hardly ever happens coming from you, especially. I'm not going to sit here and say that I knew all of these albums inside and out, or even all the projects that existed. I just thought it'd be a fun thing to really dive into, some of the stuff I did know, and then dive further in and see, man, really what kind of is out there. There's a way more material than I even thought. I didn't realize the amount of actual solo albums Jordan Rudess has.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, My Young's Jelly Jam. I didn't realize how many albums that
Platypus.
project has. Yep. Platypus. Yeah. Transatlantic has a boatload of stuff.
Yep.
There's Winery Dogs. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff out there. So the idea that we can cover really a ton of material, covering 10 songs, let's just put that out there right now. It's not going to happen. But I think we have a really cool list, and we definitely, a year from now or whatever, when more stuff comes out and we dig deeper in, I think we can, probably do another episode on this for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. It's funny because as I started putting my list together, I was laughing because it was my stuff obviously skewed towards my love of the heavier end of things, and I didn't even mean it to. I was just I went through stuff and kind of did it in a very visceral fashion. I was like, all right, oh man, that's awesome, and I would write it down. So I had a preliminary list, and then I would go back to the ones that really stood out. I probably had 20 or 25 songs, and I didn't really have to take a lot out because it always seemed to be the heavier stuff, and I was like, boy, Hendrickson's not going to pick these. so, um, so one caveat here, and you came up with the topic, so you said you get to make the rules. You put Sons of Apollo in play. You actually allowed side projects of former members, which I did not think we were going to do, but you said we're doing it. So
Yeah, I mean, I figure why not? I mean, we're talking about, all of the albums also from Dream Theater, the guys that were in there. It's not like we're excluding ones that, that aren't in there now. So, yeah, I think it's cool to, I just think it's going to be a fun topic to see what we come up with here. But, this is the one time, though, where you and I actually gave each other our lists because of the fact there is so much material. We didn't want to be like, oh, I picked this song. What do you think of it? I have no idea. It wasn't one of the 10 I picked out of 300 possibilities, right?
yeah, what the hell is that?
Right. yeah. So it was cool to get each other's lists, and actually go through it and see, oh, okay.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I'm going to let you go first, but before you go, I am going to warn you. I am gunning for you on one song tonight. I listened to one of yours, and I'm like, I'm going to crucify him for this one. So when we get...
Okay.
No, do you think you know which one it is?
I do, and I actually found out some new stuff about that song, so maybe it'll ease what you're going to do to me.
All right, so Adam says, before we get going, Adam says, glad you included former members because the Neil Morse Band has put out some absolute gems. I actually did not pick any Neil Morse stuff. I thought I might, but I actually didn't. I kind of feel like my list is a little narrow-minded, unfortunately, but I like what I like.
Well, okay, here's a question for you. Now, I do kind of want to go over a couple of these that we didn't pick and just a quick few reasons why. Do you want to save that till the end? The projects we didn't bother with?
Yeah, that's fine. That's
okay,
fine.
Let's save that to the end. So, okay. Looks like Cody W says Coming Home by Sons of Apollo is the best.
That one was this close to making my list. I love that song, especially the live version, the live in Plovdiv at the very end of the show when he goes out there just like acoustic and he's singing with the crowd. That was the coolest thing ever. That is a phenomenal live DVD. That is an awesome live show. I watch that one all the time. I love it. I actually skipped the cover songs of all things. Like, I think that'd be the cool part, but.
Well, since he's starting with Sons of Apollo, I will too as well, and I'll start with Labyrinth off the first album. We got to see that was basically the last concert any of us saw live before COVID hit. I think the last big show,
February 1st of 2020 in Battle Creek, Michigan.
Okay, Battle Creek, Michigan. That's right, and that was one of the songs they played. Man, this is just a great song. The strings that started out, it feels like a song you're getting ready to go to battle or something.
Yeah.
You got that little quirky keyboard spooky thing going on. It's like you're like contemplating the battle you're going to be in and stuff, what's about to happen. Right. And then in the middle, it has that huge, like those big fat giant 80 synth chord breakdowns. And then it goes into that jam. And like, man, I love that song. And it was might have been my favorite song they even played live. It sounded great. Jeff sounded awesome on it. It's just a great metal rocking tune.
Yep. It's funny because like you actually a couple of your notes almost mirror mine. that's really weird. Like they read stupidly, but one of the things I really like is the like after the chorus where the guitars are like ugh 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 ugh, and the keys are still going dun, 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 dun. Like it's just something about that is such a cool rhythmic thing.
Yep.
I love that part of the song. You're right about the keyboard intro. It's kind of like, oh, there's a battle coming. Like I could see that kind of feel to it.
Right.
And I have here the first jam section has a very Falling Into Infinity feel for me. Like it's so similar to what you said, like the big '80s synth. Like it's kind of like that Derek Sherinian Falling Into Infinity. It's like that signature sound. I would add, I have because this song is almost like 3 parts to me. The third section is basically prog metal perfection. I mean, that third section of the song is just awesome. And it's all that noodling that you love, and it's just, the way that they do it, which is a little bit different from Dream Theater. And, man, I love it. So is this your favorite song off of that record?
Probably, what is it, Gods of the Sun? Is that the name of the song? For the Sun
Yeah,
Gods or something?
yeah,
Sometimes some of my song titles are messed up. Between
yeah.
those two, probably on off of the first album, yes.
No
It's
kidding.
between
Okay.
those two.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on there that I really like. I mean, you and I both love both albums, so it's kind of hard to pick a favorite. But I mean, this would definitely be up there for me. Um, if I had to pick one other than that, though, I'll go with my Sons of Apollo selection, which I added after you said we were doing it. I have Alive from the first record, and it's a very straightforward song. So it's much it's to the point. It's like 5 minutes long. It's not overly proggy in any one part, but I just think it has like this really cool atmosphere to the whole song. Um, the melodies are just perfect, and it's the guitar solo in there is just un unbelievable. It's probably my best solo that Bumblefoot does in the band. So it's got that he does the thimble, the little slidey thing. Um, I love that. I love that song.
Yeah, it's a solid rock song. That was that. Pretty sure they played that live. It's a good live. Like the whole crowd starts singing along. Jeff got everybody singing that one.
Yep.
Kind of a safer song from the album, I think. Like you said, more straightforward than probably anything else on there.
Yep.
Sharonian, I believe, also has another quirky keyboard solo in that. And then there's kind of those clean, like broken guitar riff things that are going on that I don't know if that's what you're talking about at Bumblefoot. Maybe that's before that, but that's a really cool thing, right? That's going on there also.
Yeah.
So yeah, another song Jeff sounds, I love the chorus on this. Great sing along tune.
Yeah, I agree. It comes in, and it's those strummed chords with like kind of the reverby effect on it and everything, and it's one of those things that when you hear it, it's like you expect something big to come afterwards. Like you want that big huge melody, and the song doesn't disappoint, and it basically stays there. So it's one of those songs that just like the phrase like sticks to the roof of your mouth like peanut butter. Like those hooks are just all throughout the song, and it's really cool. Here's an interesting one. Okay, so Cody says, please mention James's band Winter Rose. Winter Rose, I'll Never Fall in Love Again is really catchy. I did not even think about Winter Rose.
No, I don't know anything about him.
Yeah, I completely admit the same thing. I did not even think about that. But then again, if we're doing side projects like that, it's like, hope you guys mentioned Kiss because of Derek Sherinian on the Alive 3 tour. he's triggering things with one poke of a track thing or whatever.
Well, when you put James Labrie in Spotify, that doesn't come up. I don't know if that means it may be under Winter Rose if you search that, but I know under Labrie that group or project or whatever that is does not come up on Spotify.
Yeah.
But I will check. I will check it out.
Cool. I will as well. All right. So, what do you have for your next song?
I'm gonna go with the newest Petrucci solo album and the Happy song.
Yes.
God, man, that song just I could just play that song over and over like 55 times and I never get tired of it. Especially now that it's like summer and it's warm out. It's like, turn your windows, crank your windows down, just blast it up as loud as it'll go. It's just, it's almost like a Satriani summer song, literally summer song type of a feel to it, and some people have said it's kind of like Blink 182 in those parts, which is fine with me. I don't care. It sounds good. I mean, I love those, just the melody of it. It's just, and those real quick arpeggios, and then they're doing harmony on them, and it's just like, I don't know, man. I love it.
Yeah, it was one of those things where you saw the track listing. It's like, okay, if this isn't like nothing but like major scale, major key, it's just like the whole time, you're like, yay. Like if it's not that the whole song, then this was horribly mistitled.
Yeah.
So, I'm with you. It was, when that song came on, I was like, yeah, like this is just good mood music. And it, thank you, John Petrucci. Like it's all the riffs are cool and the melodies are cool and it's uplifting and it just bumps along. It's just kind of like one of those head bopping tunes. And the thing that stood out to me about this one, which is I think this is a perfect example, and I think we've talked about this a little bit on the show, but you know, he is such a master of melody. Like he just everything he does has just this catchiness to it, and even when you put him up against like all these other like progressive guitar like virtuosos, if you listen to their solo work or even their album work, nobody really is as catchy as him. I mean, his stuff is just so good.
Yeah, he's really good at coming up with themes and motifs and and repeating them and then twisting them around and bending them and just this little subtle things here and there. And it's just, well, most of the songs we're going to talk tonight by him, like, to me, I totally agree with what you're saying about the melody. And the reason is these songs, you're like, there's what words could you sing over this? What vocal melody could you do that's going to improve on the sounds that are coming out of this guitar?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nothing. It sounds so damn good. Like, and that's the amazing part. I mean, I don't think people realize how incredibly impossible it is to write that type of music. At least to me, it seems almost impossible.
No, I completely agree. And it's, each song sounds fresh. He doesn't, with as busy as his playing can be at times, obviously because it's progressive, it has to be that way. It doesn't seem like he ever really recycles himself. So it's amazing what the guy can do. It really, really is. I mean, you go from stuff like Dark Eternal Night to the Astonishing, and then we're talking about here, to the Happy song. It's just, I mean, it's incredible, the guy's ability to craft, such strong, memorable hooks on guitar in such a variety of different fashions. It's really cool. So, all right, so my camera might move because my cat's up here again. He doesn't seem to understand the whole idea of podcasting here. All right, so Gibson Les Paul says, James Labrie, Elements of Persuasion, better be represented in this episode. That album is sick. So I am going to go to my list, and why don't we just start out with the opening track from, I don't know, James Labrie's Elements of Persuasion album?
I love when you give in to fans' threats.
I know. Well, so I have a story about this album. Okay. So I'm a huge fan of James Labrie's solo records. Not so much the Mo Muzzler stuff, like that's okay. It's pretty cool. But, Static Impulse and Impermanent Resonance. And obviously I knew about Elements of Persuasion. I went to listen to stuff for this show. And when I pulled up Elements of Persuasion, I went, oh my God, I never listened to this. Like, I could have sworn that I listened to it. And I hadn't. And I put this in and I was like, this is effing awesome. Like, this is right up my alley with the detuned guitars and just, it's like his old school, like, power highs and everything. So, so the first one that I have, again, is Crucify, the opening track. Like I said, it just comes in slow and heavy, and then all of a sudden, it's just a thrash tune. And I was just like, when it comes in, gug, 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 I was like, all right, this is cool. And then it rings out, and you go, I was like, oh my God, this is great. So, I loved it, man. There's a couple acoustic guitar parts, and the first one just dead stop and a power chord, and you're like, oh, you're about to get your ass kicked again. So that was sweet. And again, that vintage high James Labrie power vocal is just on full display in this song. It's so good.
Yeah, I love the acoustic intro is really cool. That's about as high as he probably ever gets up there. It's always that point where, man, it sounds like it's just about to go off the rails, but it doesn't quite. Yep. But you got all this relentless double time bass drums and everything going. The only complaint I have on this song is it takes about a minute and a half to get into his vocals and stuff. And when we get to some of the other stuff, that's kind of what I prefer more with his solo albums, but kind of a minimal complaint.
So you're saying you prefer that he gets to the vocal quicker? You're saying?
Yeah, yeah, and I also think like there's an intro after the acoustic part. There's I think kind of an unnecessary guitar solo thing before we get to the heavy part of the verse. I'm not like trying to nitpick every part of these songs, but on certain ones, I could definitely feel like, man, this is why I enjoy these more.
Right.
But yeah, great vocal performance on the choruses, especially.
I really thought that a lot of my choices, this one is like a perfect example that you wouldn't be into, because a lot of mine do, lean towards the heavier end of the spectrum, and I know that's not usually your thing as much as it is mine. So I really wondered if you might have seen my list and been like, ugh. So
I wasn't shocked.
Yeah, I knew it wouldn't surprise you. That's for sure. All right, so what do you have next?
Okay. I wonder if this is the one you're talking about. All right, okay, we're skipping that one. All right. I'm going to Dance on a Volcano.
You are mine. I don't ever want to hear you tell me about Space Divest again. I don't care if this is a Genesis cover. Okay. I don't care, okay? It's a song about walking up a mountain while a volcano's erupting. That is the dumbest idea. It is. The lyrics are crafted very well for the topic. I will give them that.
Right.
However, at least Space Divest's lyrics are rooted in some sort of reality. The woman's beautiful on the page, but if I meet her in person, it'll never be the same. It's kind of like, when you're a kid and you're looking at a Playboy, right. You're like, yeah, well, it's airbrushed and they're not going to look like that in person. Like, that's at least reality. This is about a dude traipsing up a freaking volcano while it's erupting, and they wrote lyrics about it. So I don't want to hear about Space Divest ever again, because you do that and I'm doing Dancing on a Volcano.
Hey, man.
Now, with your review.
This is 1976, the height of prog rock Genesis, okay? And this is also the first album without Peter Gabriel. Did you go back and listen to the original list by chance or no?
You know what? I meant to, and I forgot to do it, so I did not.
Well, you would absolutely destroy that then, especially after hearing this. So, because it's got Phil Collins singing, so it's going to lose points right there.
Is Jordan's version that different? Because I know it said that record is kind of like it said it's like it's like a reimagining of these songs.
Yeah,
I don't know if
they don't. It doesn't sound really much the same to me at all. Especially all the keyboards are way more pronounced and fat. I love all these analog fat keyboards he's got going. The sounds are great on them. Right. I like Neil Morse's voice on this. I do not really care for his voice on the transatlantic stuff, which is why I just, some of the music on there is really beautiful. But if I'm not into the singer, then
yeah,
I thought his voice on this was fine.
Is it Neil Morse? When I looked up who the singer was, it was some Italian name or something.
No, I believe it's Neil Morse. If someone can correct me or if I'm wrong, I'll own up to it.
Google that again, but. Yeah, I wanted to know who that was, and
it's just a big epic '70s prog rock journey, and he did it his way, and I love the keyboard sounds in it, and I just think it's a cool song. And I should have known after listening to it a second time, like, wait a minute, this doesn't sound anything at all like anything off of his solo albums, and it was hard. It was hard to pick something off of his other stuff. I love Jordan Rudess as a keyboard player, and his solo albums have some cool stuff, but I just couldn't really find anything. And I came across this, and I was like, "Oh man, this is pretty cool." And then come to find out it's a cover song, so I feel kind of dumb now. But it's still cool. I think it's a great performance. And I don't know if you're probably not your cup of tea, but old Genesis, there really is some great stuff there.
Yeah, for sure. Like I didn't hate it. Look at that. We just hit push notification. The CMS Podcast Network just told everybody that we are live.
Nice.
Yeah, the melodies are great. Again, I'm not familiar with the original song, so I don't know how close it is or how far it skews from the original. Well, but like I said, the melodies are great. It seems a little forced together, I would say. Like the transitions between the couple parts weren't as smooth as in some other stuff, but it was cool. I think I had the same problem with the Jordan stuff as you did. I went back and listened to a bunch of things. I actually really do like his Wired for Madness record. I like that one a lot. But yeah, I couldn't really latch on to anything that was really for me like, okay, I got to throw this in my list.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I say, like I tried, and but my list is pretty obvious based on what I'm into. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I won't sit here and pretend that I knew this original Genesis song either. So let's just get that out there. Obviously, I didn't because I would have known it was a cover.
right.
But I still think it's a cool performance and just the overall sound of it, especially like if you get a chance, pull up, on YouTube or Spotify, pull up the version of this and you'll be like, whoa, okay.
Yeah,
they
for sure.
definitely rocked it, moderned it up, and it sounds just a lot more, modern.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out because like I've not really heard a lot of the classic Genesis, so I'm very naive to it. So it'd be something cool to listen to and then compare the two versions. Um, all right, so I am cheating. I got mad when you used Sons of Apollo, and so I decided to cheat on one. And I am going with all of the choruses on James Labrie's Impermanent Resonance record. And the reason I am doing that is because it was difficult for me to pick one song off of that album, because every time the chorus would hit, I'm like, oh, I got to pick this one. And I couldn't pick one because pretty much every chorus on that record is huge. And there actually is a reason for that. When James was doing interviews for that record, he said that he and Matt Guillory, when they were writing the record, the way that they wrote it is they wrote the choruses all first. So they went through and made sure the choruses were just absolutely enormous, and then they fleshed out the song around what they had done for a chorus, which I thought was, I've never heard of anybody doing that before. I'm sure other people have, but to me that was a brilliant way of writing, and it sounds fantastic. So I mean, you get like Agony is just a great song, and I mean the whole record is just full of hooks. So I cheated and used all the choruses from that record.
That's okay. Just great keyboard programming throughout this entire album.
Yeah.
all, all the sounds just really add to it. It never feels like too much. Like I said, Agony's great song. Sleight of Hand, Back on the Ground. I love that shake off the stardust line they say there.
Yeah, I do too. I do too.
The one that almost made my list, I Got You. It's got those cool techno keys behind the verse.
Yep.
Holding On, again, this techno-ish keyboards. It's got atmosphere. My other one that almost made it, I probably, if I would have given you time to change, I probably would have put Lost in the Fire. Lost in the Fire, man, that is a great song.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I love that little circular. It's like a repeating guitar riff, goes up an octave. It's the back half of the chorus where that I'm not gonna run, bring on and see the smoke rise. That part right there, where it's that guitar is just kind of circling around that one part. Like I love those type of things that go on in this style of music. And this is his latest solo album, correct?
Yeah, the most recent one.
So yeah, it kind of feels like it sort of picked off where Static Impulse kind of left off. It has a similar type feel, like it just took it to a little bit more, even just a little more polished, a little more melodic level.
Yeah. I agree with everything you said, man. The record is so solid. I mean, these three albums that he did, Elements of Persuasion, Static Impulse, and Impermanent Resonance, like you can just put those on like back to back to back, and they're all a little bit different from each other, but they're still, pretty similar, and they're all great. I mean, those three albums are fantastic. I can't believe they don't get more press. I mean, the instrumentation is awesome, and I just think it's really underrated personally. But well, here's one. All right, Cody says, "Dog Boots" by Planet X. Honestly, because of that band, I thought for sure Virgil Donati would be the pick of the drummers when I heard he had auditioned. I didn't listen to a lot of that album. Did you listen to any of it?
Well, this is a good segue for my next pick.
Oh, all right. Well, let's get into it then.
I will go to my next pick. Is it's the live Portnoy, Billy Sheehan, Tony McAlpine, Derek Sherinian. That's live in Tokyo from 2012.
Yes.
Now, John, you knew it was only a matter of time before Tony McAlpine, I would weave him into our show.
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it.
I mean, it took probably 4 months longer than you thought it would.
Right.
So I actually did not pick The Stranger off of this live album, which is from Tony's first solo album.
Yep.
I skipped over all the Dream Theater tunes. There's more on there than I thought. I think Lines in the Sand, Hell's Kitchen, Change of Seasons, Part 1.
Yeah, there's the Change of Seasons thing.
And another interesting one on here is Acid Rain, which is actually a Liquid Tension experiment song. I did not pick that. I picked Apocalypse 1470 BC, and that's off of Derek Sherinian's first solo album, Planet X. So it's kind of confusing because his first album was Planet X, but he has a super group made up of Virgil Donati on drums and various other guys. McAlpine's on, I think there's 4 albums total, and they make up their own albums as well. So this is actually the song that I did pick. Like I said, Apocalypse 1470 BC is from that first Sherinian album. They play it live on this album, and it's just a big, giant, pompous, ominous, sludgy, orchestrated, Deep Purple, Emerson, Lake and Palmer type of thing with the prog elements and fusion and stuff in it. You know, it does have a lot. It has a lot of those stops and starts where they're getting the crowd involved. That some people probably think it's stupid, but I think it's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I like this one. This one kind of strikes me as a song that I think I would prefer in a live setting more than listening to it on CD. When I actually have the Blu-ray of that show, and it's really good. But this is not one of the more standout tracks to me. It's kind of soundscape-ish to me. Not a lot of catchy stuff to latch onto, in my opinion, in this one. You know, and I would have to go back and listen to the original because obviously did the whole crowd participation thing and, you know, like seeing if they could nail it, you know, super tight. And but it is very cool. And the one thing that I do love is, you know, when you listen to McAlpine's guitars, he's constantly doing those like detuned squealies, which it sounds stupid, but I'm a huge fan of those. So you can hear that in the, you know, while he's riffing, and I really like that. So, you know, it's definitely great. But again, I think something I would probably enjoy more if I was at a show and they started going, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is great, you know. So
yeah, the Sherinian solo stuff is it's out there. I mean, it's like I said, the closest I can come to it is probably Emerson, Lake and Powell. Keith Emerson, you know, meets
Palmer.
Emerson. Well, Powell's the second band, but yeah, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, the older ELP stuff, and then some Deep Purple elements, and then just Sherinian's crazy, you know, classical background or whatever, doing all this wild stuff on it. But yeah, that drummer Virgil Donati, I put a few notes down. So he had played on a Tony McAlpine album. He also played with Steve Walsh, singer from Kansas, and also one of the guitar players we both like, Kiko Loureiro. I guess he was on one of his solo albums as well. Mm-hmm. So
man, I'm glad you dig deep into this stuff. I had no idea about any of that.
Yeah, I wanted to see, you know, a little bit behind this. That whole track listing for that double, like we said, it's got the Dream Theater albums, it has or the Dream Theater songs, it has the Liquid Tension Experiment song, it's got some of Sherinian stuff, some of McAlpine stuff. There's a Billy Cobham song, who's a very famous jazz fusion drummer. I can't remember the song. I almost picked that one because it really has a great, cool funk fusion groove to it. Sure. But I decided to pick this one instead just because it was a Sherinian original.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I dig it. I just thought for me it was something I'd probably enjoy more in a live setting. So, all right. So moving on my list, I'm going to go to the first John Petrucci solo album, and I'm not going to go with the usual selection, Glasgow Kiss. I think anybody who picks Glasgow Kiss is just, you know, just picking it because he didn't really do his research, and just is like, oh, I know that song because that's the most popular one. A little busting your balls there, but anyway, yeah, I'm going with the second song, Jaws of Life, which again, surprise, is a heavy song. Actually, it's the opening track. Excuse me, Glasgow Kiss is the second song. This one just to me, the riff has stuck in my head ever since this record came out. And to me, it just screams like, well, you're about to listen to a John Petrucci record, mother. You know, like that's what it sounds like to me. It's just it's a statement of, you know, what you're going to get. And it's just it's awesome. You know, it basically has everything that, you know, people who love his guitar playing love about the rock and heavier, you know, the heavier and more rock based aspects of his playing. And you know, again, that main riff, you know, is just fat and it's big and it's it as heavy and you know sludgy as it is, it's really memorable. Again, he's got that gift for melody.
Yeah, I feel like it could have been something maybe that they put on Train of Thought or maybe even Black Clouds. It's just a big ominous slab of metal, you know. It's really,
Yeah,
and but I do like how in you get into the chorus and then it's actually goes into a major key there, you know, gets a little bit more upbeat and happy, I guess is the term I'd use. But
yeah,
yeah, cool song. I mean, you know, we talked about it before. He just has the ability to make these songs that just really you don't get bored with them. You know, he puts enough little things in here when you think, okay, well, he's going to do that again, and he comes up with something new to just turn it around, just a little bit of a variation on a theme, and it just sounds so good.
yeah. He seems to have an excellent innate feel for when something is going on too long. Um, you know, teasing one of your selections coming up. Unfortunately, I think he does kind of go on too long in one part in a song that you're going to mention later. But that almost never happens. And it's just right when you're, okay, I've had enough of this part. Oh, there's something new. Like he just kind of has that, again, that feel of when to change things up and when to, you know, kind of bring out the next course of the meal, you know, use that analogy. And it's like, it's you know this song is a statement of that, I think, right off the bat. So yeah, so I went with Jaws of Life, John Petrucci, suspended animation.
Well, maybe this is the song you're talking about, Black Ice.
No, actually, it
Okay.
is not. It is
Okay.
not.
So this is off of something that I don't even know. If I did know it existed, I forgot. It's from An Evening with Jordan Rudess and John Petrucci, and it was recorded June 10th, 2000 in New York. This album clocks in at a minuscule, very concise 78 minutes.
Yeah.
But you know, of that 78 minutes, only 11 of it is the song Black Ice.
Right.
So I did some research on this just out of curiosity. Like, if you could find the sheet music for this,
Uh-huh.
what would you guess the sheet music cost for this song if you were to download it?
Well, I may be outdated here, but isn't sheet music on average like $3 to $5 a song?
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
All right.
40,
Well, then it's
$42.
what?
It's 69 pages of sheet music for this. Now, when you hear
Are
the
you
song, you
serious?
realize why it's like 70 pages because it just goes on and on. But yeah, I was like
Wow.
$42. And I'm like, well, they probably figures I don't know if this is like if those guys get a cut off of this, if this is truly going through the publishing, or this is a third party that said, hey, if I took the time to you know, chart this all out, I'm getting $42 for it for whoever wants to buy it. But
They're probably getting no money for it. That's why they're charging 42, because they got to get their money off the
Well,
album somehow.
exactly, right. But yeah, you know what, this is just I went through that whole like the track listing kind of quickly just to see, you know, if there's something on there. And the fact that it is an electric guitar with just the piano, there's something cool about that. And yeah, I know we're going to get into, obviously, if you're there live, seeing it live, it's going to be better. Of course, that's almost with anything.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's one of those pieces of music's like in the background, you know, the characters are like trying to solve some kind of scientific, you know, equation, or trying to figure out we got to save the world from something, you know. It's
Right.
like this real like reflective, you know, type thing. Like, you know, it just sort of has that sort of, I don't know, that sort of feel to it to me. And there's an awesome, like, I don't know, 3-4 minute piano breakdown, just Jordan just going absolutely crazy.
Yep.
And then when the cool thing about when that's over, Petrucci comes in with a real kind of a bluesy, you know, just sort of playing some choice notes here and there, and then they get sort of back into the main riff. You know, I will admit, at 11 minutes, it's pretty darn long. This isn't the kind of thing for everyone. That's for sure. You know, I wouldn't, you know, someone that I'm trying to get into this band, I wouldn't be like, here, sit down and listen to Black Ice.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
But
yeah,
I think it's a cool piece of music.
No, I like it. I've listened to the whole album. I actually was very familiar with this album. I had it back in the day on CD and it got stolen. But yeah, it's definitely something that you will listen to all the way through and enjoy all the way through if you're into mellow jam stuff. It's definitely, yeah, obviously without a drummer and a bass player and all that kind of stuff, it never can really get heavy or, I'm obviously the melodic, like the mellow, like the clean stuff comes out phenomenally well. But, I think this song is an example of one that I would love to hear this song with drums and bass and like fully produced because, it does have cool changes. Like you said, that when Jordan just goes nuts in the middle and the piano, that's awesome. It's a great song. Like you said, I think it might be a little bit lengthy at 11 minutes. But it's cool, man. It's catchy. It's got that that riff and stuff, and even in that setting of just guitar and piano, it gets a heavy feel to it as much as it can. So it's a cool vibe, especially in a show in that sort of environment. All right, so you went Black Ice. What am I gonna do? Let's see.
Oh, wait a minute. Cody W. Nightmare by Avenged Sevenfold. One of your favorite bands.
I hate that band.
I love that album. I love Portnoy's drumming on it too. But you hate that band, so it doesn't matter.
It isn't the music, except for that record they wrote called the Black Album. Or I'm sorry, Metallica's self.
Oh yeah.
What a joke. Anyway, M Shadows is a very good singer. I just can't stand the sound of his voice. It's one of those guys that's good, and I give him all the credit in the world for that, but I cannot stand his voice. It's kind of like Chris Cornell. I hate his voice, and he Gibson Les Paul. Oh, Cody, make it stop. Yeah, like, speaking of Dream Theater side projects, I can't get into Winery Dogs because Richie Kotzen sounds so alike, so much alike to Chris Cornell. And I hate Chris Cornell, the sound of his voice. It's just the tonality of it. Something about it drives me crazy. And
yeah, it's
can't do
it's
it.
pushed to the point of breaking too on almost every song. Like,
yeah.
Which is interesting because have you heard that stuff with Richie Kotzen and Adrian Smith? Have you heard any of that?
I have not heard that yet.
Man, it is really, really good. You might have to check it out. I'll have to send you a link.
Okay.
I don't know if the full album is out, but man, they wrote just kind of a sort of up-tempo blues, 80s rock sort of combination thing. You'd be like, this is Richie Kotzen, Adrian Smith? What?
Sure, right.
It's got a nice catchy element to it. But yeah, I didn't pick Winery Dogs either, and for most of the same reasons you said.
Yeah. All right, here we go. So our new boss, quote unquote. So the CMS Network says, where does Rudis's contribution to Lalu's atomic arc rate? I vaguely have heard of that, and I don't consider it a side project. So
I have no idea what it is, so I can't even comment.
Yeah, that came up when I was doing some Rudis research, and since it's not an actual Jordan Rudis side project, I had to draw the line at stuff they just appear on. So it's like if John Petrucci did a 30-second solo in somebody's song, it would be like picking your favorite Van Halen side projects, and you're like, beat it. All right, I like
right.
Beat It. Like that's a guest solo. So yeah, sorry, Aiken. Lalu's atomic arc with featuring Jordan Rudis does not rate on our list.
He Googled that, didn't he, just to try to find something?
Knowing him, he might actually know that.
Oh, really? Because I thought he doesn't he hate Dream Theater?
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't hate it. He likes some of it, but only a little bit. He's a bigger fan of Sons of Apollo because he's a huge Jeff Scott Soto fan, and so he's interviewed him a bunch of times, and they're friendly, And
Right.
but yeah, no, he is a troll. There's no doubt about it. But he probably actually knows that. Um, all right, so see now I lost my place. Uh, who's up? It was me, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're up.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go back to Elements of Persuasion, and I'm going with Freaks because that song is right up my alley. It's one of those weirder ones, just in terms of the vocal. It's not a. There's nothing that ever is really melodic about it, and it is just heavy. It's got that weird key intro, and then the guitars come in the ugh 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 ugh, ugh, and you're like, oh, what's coming? And then that kind of like new metalish, like like that comes in, and you're just like, oh, and then it goes into a keyboard thing again, and then the verse comes in, and it's just, I mean, only people watching the video will get this, but this is one of those riffs that when you're listening to it, wherever you are, you make the snotty rock face, just bob your head. You're like, yeah, like, and it's like if you're playing a riff like this on stage yourself, you're just standing there with like your guitar straight up and down, looking at everybody, just kicking each other's ass in the pit. Like, it is heavy, and I love it. It is so good, and it's one of those songs that's just heavy and fat and punishing just for the sake of being heavy, fat, and punishing. And I love it. It's like you would never think, when you think James Labrie, you would never, ever think of a song like this. But here it is, and I'm a huge fan. So,
yeah, it's got that cool video. It's like a video game, intro almost on the keyboards.
Yeah.
It's the swirling arpeggiated thing, and then like I said, it's just a big fat riff. Then there's some more of those spacey keyboards later. But yeah, upon first hearing this, I wouldn't in a million years think that this was James Labrie.
Yeah.
And then when it comes in, starts singing, you can tell obviously. But cool song. Again, I think it's it's probably about a minute too long for my tastes.
Yep.
But
I really thought this would be one that you would have listened to and gone, not at all. Like, I figured this is one you actually did not really like.
No, there's his solo stuff. There's always just enough, to like. I can't go, oh, God, this is terrible. There's just too much good stuff going on in it. Even if I just think it's okay. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's probably where I am on it.
Yeah, I agree. I just have to say, the Elements of Persuasion record was such a surprise to me. And I've been listening to it ever since you came up with the idea a couple weeks ago for us to do this. And I went, how did I miss this? Like, I love this. Like, this is like right up my alley. Like, what the hell was I doing that I completely forgot to listen to this record? Like, what in the hell was I doing? So, well, Gibson Les Paul is a big fan of the record, so he says, Undecided and Alone coming soon. I do not have those on my list, and Brian does not either, but they are great songs. So, sorry to disappoint you there, but those are not on the list. So, all right, what do you got next?
I'm going to go with Acid Rain off the second Liquid Tension Experiment.
Yes.
I love the piano on this, especially after Petrucci established that huge riff, and then the piano's doing almost like this counterpoint thing.
Yep.
It's a good combination of, heaviness. It's just got a great groove to it. It's just a hint of a melody to hang on. They milk it for about 6.5 minutes, which is probably about perfect. You go another 3-4 minutes on that. It's probably too long.
Yeah.
I think the only thing on this, I didn't listen to the entire album, but the production on it, that's snare is a little bit trash can-y for me. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they're going for a little more like that open live jazz type of a fusion type feel for it. But
sure.
The sound of it, it's kind of one of those things when you lock in on something that you kind of don't like that much, you're like, that's all you can hear, Yeah. But I mean, it doesn't totally ruin the song for me or anything. It's just an observation on, I wasn't super huge fan of the snare, but cool song. And the live version that's on the other one, the album we talked about with Sharinian, is actually pretty cool as well. So I advise anyone to check both of them out, actually.
Yeah. Acid Rain is a great song. My first note says, this one just effing rocks. To me, it's one of those rare progressive instrumental songs that actually feels like it's going somewhere. And especially for Liquid Tension, which is written in the they record it as they write it pretty much. It's a very well written song. Some of their stuff it can get pretty overblown, I think, but this one, as you said, is it's nice and concise. It gets to the point. It really kind of has a cool direction. Like you right as it starts building into, you kind of think where it's going, and it goes there. Like, and I like that. So, I wrote, even the breakdowns feel like they're setting something up instead of it being just like, oh, let's cram another prog part in here. I just think it's a very well crafted song, especially for a progressive instrumental tune. So yeah, I really like that one, and I realized it's funny listening to some of this stuff because I never realized how much of the LTE stuff that Dream Theater actually puts in their instrumental jams and the live stuff they've put out. Because I've heard this before, but I don't listen to Liquid Tension a lot because to me it just doesn't really it can get very noodly, and it's not really something I would I'd rather listen to like a Petrucci solo album because it's a little more song-y, I suppose. But I heard this and I was like, oh, this is, yeah, man. So this is where that came from. Cause I've heard it in a bunch of stuff that they've done live when they just get into jamming. So, all right. So let's see. CMS Network says Misled from Static Impulse is great. And would you look at that? My next choice is Misled from James Labrie's Static Impulse record. Full disclosure, I came into this as a huge fan of the James Labrie solo stuff, and I tried to listen to a bunch of other stuff. I had to have listened to like 15 different albums of side project stuff, and I kept coming back to the James stuff. And so like I was saying earlier, my list is a little skewed, and I can't help it. I like what I like. And with this one, keeping the keys going under the staccato guitar, I thought was really, really cool. The guitars following the kick drum the whole song is great. Like, and they're mimicking each other while the keys are holding down, that melodic anchor sort of a thing. I thought that was great. Middle section and then the solo out and everything. The solo is kick ass, and it is just the whole song just drives. I mean, especially the end part is just like so absolutely metal. And then, of course, at the end, you get something you never thought you'd hear, which is James Labrie singing over blast beats. So you're like, what is this? So yeah, this is a banger. So I love this one.
Almost made my list. Without giving it away, I do have some from Static Impulse.
Yep.
This song it's about a minute and a half shorter than those other ones. It's like, and it gets right into it. That's what I love about it.
Yeah.
You like you said, there's those stuttering, they mute the guitars, and you got the big giant wash of choir string keyboards behind it. It creates that just, that frantic pedaling keyboard thing comes in later. It's just like boom, there's such an urgency to it, and the riff is great, the chorus is great. I love all the melody, his choices, vocal melody. My only problem is, aren't they misspelling this word? Shouldn't it be Misled?
I was thinking the same thing, but I didn't want to go grammar Nazi.
and then, like, if you're going to pronounce it Misled, it's going to get confused with that song by Kool and the Gang as well. But I mean, if you spell it this way, it almost implies you're assigning like a female gender to an element of the periodic table. So I don't know why it was spelled this way. I guess that's the only thing that's throwing me off. But no,
wrote down some jokes, did you?
Well, I wrote down some stuff. Let's put it there. I don't know what jokes, but
oh God.
Yeah, no, great song, and I'll use that. I'll go ahead and segue into mine off of one of the ones I had off of Static Impulse that you yelled at me for, Jekyll or Hyde.
Yes, I was going to use that one.
Oh man, so let me ask you something, if you agree with this.
Sure.
There's about 3 songs on this album that completely remind me of one of my all-time favorite albums, Bullet for My Valentine, Venom. The song, the production, the way the guitar harmonies are, the staggering, the big giant choruses.
Yeah.
They just, man, to me, they're just dead on.
I could see that. Yeah. I never thought of it that way.
So the last one, Jekyll and Hyde, and another one that I'm tell you about later. But man, it's just a giant, frantic, just immediate piece of ear candy. The
Yep.
chorus is awesome. The dude that Marcos Svogli that plays, I guess, does he play on all the albums? He's on
I
this.
don't.
He's on this album, I know, and he was also on that Genesis thing. But man, he does the guitars and programming on this whole album, I believe. And like I said,
Yeah.
it sounds like Bullet for My Valentine, Venom. Like it sounds like they went right to the next studio. Go here, James was like, let me put something that sounds like that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he
Right.
copied it, but it's just like God. It just reminds me of that, and I love that band because it's like 3.5, 4.5 minutes tops. You get right to the heart of the chorus and the riff and everything, and you just wrap it all up, and boom, you get into the next song. And I
Yeah.
love Juggler High. It's just a man. I could just play that tune forever.
Yep. If you're gonna show somebody like why the James Labrie solo stuff kicks ass, I think this would be a good one to show them. This is because as I said earlier, each of these three records, they're very similar, but they do have a different little bit of a feel to them. And I think this one kind of covers what the other two have. So it's kind of a nice cross section of all three of the albums. And yeah, I'm completely with you on this one. You picked it. I was like, so I had to cross it off my list. So I was very close on this one as well. All right, let's see how many. Wow, I've got okay. I have two left. I have three left, and then we have one. We've only done six apiece. What are we doing? Wow. So, all right. So I've got a couple left. So I am actually going to go with Temple of Circadia from John Petrucci's most recent solo record, Terminal Velocity. My notes, I have another song from that on here. I'll just tease it. I said, do you like vintage Portnoy Petrucci stuff? Here you go. This is another one of those songs I think like is perfectly written, kind of like Acid Rain. It changes exactly when it needs to. It builds down and it breaks down and builds up in all the right places. It's kind of like it takes you on that ride that you're expecting it, and the payoff is always there. And then the end, once they get into like the full time, the rocking, it just goes until the end, and it kicks ass. I love it. It's like because you're like, oh, this is a great part. This is really cool. And he's like, well, then you're gonna get this for the rest of the song, and I love that about it.
Yeah, the first 2 minutes, it's almost like you said, they change it almost exactly at the right time. Like the first couple minutes, it almost sounds like a Dream Theater song. And then you get that soaring melodic, lead that he goes into, just establishing that monster theme. And there's a kind of a cool acoustic breakdown in the middle there also. And then you're getting those things where the guitar's doing like those swells on the volume and stuff, and those cool little parts. And and then he goes into the guitar's like doing a double, like a high harmony thing to itself, and those leads with those high harmony leads, like he's just a master at crafting that type of a composition.
Yeah.
And man, great tune. That last album he did is just amazing.
Yeah. If you like vintage Portnoy Petrucci stuff, that whole entire Terminal Velocity record is just ear candy in that vein. It's, oh my God. It's so good. CMS Network says, we'll get to Cody in 1 second here, pull up the wrong one. CMS Network says, Labrie is generally strong solo, except Impermanent Resonance. That was mid-tempo and boring. I disagree. I love that record. That's why I think it's great. I picked all the choruses on it for a reason. I think that's huge. Cody says, who would you love to hear some of the other members collaborate with? I'd love to hear Jordan do an album with Floor Jansen.
That's
That's
from
a good question.
Nightwish, isn't that is that the keyboard
Nightwish,
player?
yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I don't know. He's
It's
played with so many different weird people already. Anyway, like
I know.
Steven Wilson, hasn't he played with him?
Yeah.
Um,
Man, that's tough.
We're sitting here like, duh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I would say John Petrucci playing with Eddie Van Halen, just because Eddie Van Halen is like everything to me, so I'm selling out on that one. But, man, that's really difficult. I'd have to come back to that. I've never thought about that before. Yeah. Cody's right. He's Floor Jansen is the Nightwish singer.
Oh,
So
singer. Okay.
yeah.
I'd like to hear like
Um
maybe Petrucci with Satriani, like because those two are kind of I think the most similar, but they also have their own unique style. I'd love to see like an album where they just kind of collaborate and bang out 10, 12 songs or something, see what it sounds like.
that'd be kind of cool. I
Yeah.
would like that.
I mean, I know they've
Uh
done with that G3 thing, but has Satriani ever
yeah.
done that before or no?
I saw that. Yeah, it was at the Hard Rock Roxino. It was Phil Collin of Def Leppard opening of all things.
Okay.
He
But
was
who
way
would
better than I would expected. And then John Petrucci played, and then Satriani was the headliner. So
Okay, so he
um,
was part of that anyway. All right. I wasn't sure
yeah,
who was on those. I know they've rotated different people. But yeah, just see them do an album of all original stuff, would be cool.
yeah. All right. So what do you have next?
I want to go back to Static Impulse again. I Need You.
Okay.
Um, it's not really all that different sounding than some of the other stuff that we really like. It's a fat choir string sound on top of a crushing mid-tempo riff again. Sounds kind of like that Bullet for My Valentine Venom album, which I said
Yep.
before. Um, it's got a giant chorus and just a great song.
Yeah.
It's for about 4 minutes tops, maybe. I think boom, you get like I said, they're just really urgent and immediate. They get right to the point.
Yeah. Another big chorus, dude. I don't know what it is about Labrie and his solo stuff, but he's got a knack for writing hooks. I mean, we said that about Petrucci's guitar playing, so it's like it's got to be one of those things. I mean, you put those two guys together. That's probably why we love Dream Theater so much, because you got a couple guys that can just write, hooks for days, and you stick them together. It's like no wonder we like the band. Yeah, I have the guitars and the kick drums again, following each other for most of the song. It's a cool rhythmic feel. And I think it really makes the chorus even bigger, when it's, simpler, it's a much more direct kind of thing in the chorus. And I think, the busyness of the parts leading into it kind of really draw that out. So I'm going to go a little quicker on mine so that we can, get to the one that we both picked. Let's see, I've got two more. I am going to go back to the Terminal Velocity record, and I am going with Glassy-Eyed Zombies. The little discordant, whatever you want to say. I call them stingers, like at the ends of the chords are really cool. And you were saying you could hear certain things in a movie or whatnot. I was thinking about that because I know that you kind of look at things that way, and I could see this in a horror movie. Kind of like running away, like, oh crap, there's like zombies that are behind us. And when it speeds up in the middle of the song, it's like, yes, it's time to rock, and it gets going, man. And this is a really cool song, and I haven't really seen a lot of people that reviewed the record really calling this out as kind of a standout track. But for me, this is one of my favorites.
Yeah, this is a cool, sinister, funky riff, and then it gets that quirky melodic thing, and it really reminds me of, I don't know how you feel about this guy. I love a couple of his later albums, Devin Townsend. It's a massive compression delay, and you got the palm muting and those real squawking harmonics, and it's just awash and all this reverb and everything, but it's just a huge fat sound. And it just, the hardest thing about this is like making this, you got to come up with this cool melody to counterbalance this stuff, and then just to make it sound so ginormous like that, you know what I mean? It's just really like, it's like you said, it feels like zombies almost coming at you, like you can kind of like you're almost like looking over your shoulder, but it's not just coming up with parts is hard enough, but then making those just sound so big like that, it's just
Yeah.
is such an art form. And it like I said, it kind of reminded me of the stuff that I like about Devin Townsend. Had that kind of a squawking feel to it. And yeah, I don't know if there's any bad, I haven't heard any tracks on that last Petrucci album that I thought were not great. They're all real solid.
Yeah, that when that record was announced, everyone was like, "Yeah, cool, another Petrucci album." It's one of those ones that you get high hopes for, and you pray you're not let down. You're like, God, I'm so excited for this. Please, live up to the expectation. And I think it exceeded it personally. man, when I heard it, one of my two guitar players in the cover band that I'm with, he's a huge Petrucci fan, so we're always nerding out on Dream Theater and stuff. And that whole day, the record came out. We were like, "Oh my god, did you hear this? Did you listen? Oh my god!" Like we were just going absolutely bonkers for it. I mean, it is a phenomenal record, and suspended animation is great. But this one just ups the ante. I mean, it's one of those things that it was totally worth the wait. And again, it's vintage Portnoy and Petrucci. So if you're into the way that they just play off each other so perfectly, I think this song is one of the perfect examples of that. So, all right. So what is your next one? Because this should be, I think, your second to last one.
Yeah, I've got the one that you ripped on as Captain Obvious, the Glasgow Kiss.
I had to call you out a little bit. I was joking. This is a phenomenal song, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's just a great major key melodic riff. It's kind of got that thing we talked about before. It's like majestic. It's kind of glorious. It's like I don't know. It feels like the king is returning to the the castle from war or something. It's like a medieval festival type thing to it. It's like there's pomp and grandiosity to it or whatever. And like there's a parade or something. It kind of reminds me of some of the stuff that a local used to be a local guy here, Neil Zaza. Some of his solo albums have this type of these type of riffs and these type of songs and feels.
Good reference. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, so I really like the song. Part Satriani, part Neil Zaza, all Petrucci, obviously.
Yeah.
Just a cool, fun song. You could put in the background of anything. You could make a movie out of it. Slideshow. Whatever you're doing. Or just hanging out doing stuff around the house. Just a great song to just jam to and listen to.
Yep. Yeah, I mean this is the if you're going to talk about Petrucci's solo career, this is the song people generally come back to, but I mean for good reason. It's a phenomenal song. It's really cool. I like the breakdown part in the middle. To me, it's like it breaks down, it gets mellow right when it should and everything, and then obviously then you get back into that main riff and everything. However, I will say that, as I mentioned earlier, that this is the song that I think he actually does stay on something too long. That riff at the end that he just plays a solo over for like 3 minutes or something, maybe even 4, and it's all over that same riff. It's just like, okay, like if you're watching that live, the time goes by quicker. So it's really cool. But on record, I always find myself going, man, he's been doing this riff for a long time. And it's not a bad thing, but it is one of those times where I was kind of like, maybe let's change this up a little bit or extend that middle part. I don't know. But you're right. Definitely a great song. So my last one before we have one that we both picked, 'cause we like it so much that we cheated and are actually allowing ourselves to have a combination. I actually have one from Liquid Tension Experiment 1, State of Grace. This to me is basically an absolutely melodically perfect song. And it's very simple. It's just keys and lead guitar. It never gets busy. They going back to an evening with Petrucci and Rudis album where you had Black Ice. They do this song on there, and it gets a teeny bit busier. Like Petrucci does some more intricate stuff on the guitar, but on the album version, it's very straightforward, and you just listen to it. It has so much emotion to it, and at the end when he goes into the harmony guitar part, it's like that this is the grand finale, and it's just I love it. It's always been a piece of music that stands out for me ever since I heard it the first time, which was actually on the Petrucci Rudis record.
I had never heard this, and honestly, this might be the coolest song that you picked out of yours. Yeah, it's a real introspective type of a song. Like I could see it like ending. It seems like it'd be a great song to end an album with, or even a show. Like, I mean, you could see this like almost fitting at the end of The Astonishing or something, or even fitting in its end of Scenes from a Memory almost. I don't know. There's something sublime about it, but like I said, it's introspective and it's just a beautiful piece of music, and there's no notes that are out of place. And this one really surprised me. I figured I was gonna when you picked one, I figured it was gonna be some 10-minute jam, with a Portnoy 4-minute solo or something. And this is not what I pictured something that you'd pick. And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is like, if you think about it, like, I've mentioned that I absolutely love Hell's Kitchen, and this is, minus drums, minus a rhythm section. This is kind of in that vein a little bit. So yeah, as much as I'm a sucker for like the really heavy stuff, I'm also a sucker for the unbelievably moody melodic stuff as well. So, this again, when I heard this on that Petrucci Portnoy record, I was, Rudis record, I went, "What is this?" I mean, it just grabbed me immediately, and I've never forgotten it. So, all right. So before we get to our last song, which we have agreed that we are going to both put it on our list because it's just that good. We have some comments in here. So let's see. Cody asks, "Does James sing? Does James singing on some Arion albums count?" I would say no, because that's a guest appearance.
Oh man, Arion, I love that stuff. Oh,
is that how you pronounce it, Arion? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's basically just one guy. And then he recruits 8 million people to, he composes it all, but the stuff is just amazing.
Right. All right. So CMS Network asks us, have you seen Liquid Tension Experiment live? The answer to that is no, because I don't remember if they toured when the albums first came out in 98 and 2000, I want to say. But they did a reunion tour in 2008, and they literally only played a handful of shows, and a couple of them were in Los Angeles and a couple were in New York, and they recorded them and released them on the Yite Jam label, both on CD and on DVD. So they're pretty much collector's items now. But Gibson Les Paul says Annihilator, No Zone. Annihilator's cool, but I don't consider that a side project. What about you?
Who played on Annihilator?
That was Mangini.
Oh, that's right. He was the second drummer or third drummer, whatever they had. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could consider it, but I'm not a huge fan of that band personally. I think it's okay.
I think they have some cool stuff, but again, I don't think I would consider it a side project.
Yeah, because that was before he was in.
Yeah. No, before he was in the band. Yeah, Dream Theater, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. CMS Network says, Brian is hitting on why I like Labrie more than Dream Theater. More concise songwriting. That's not a surprise there. I think I mentioned on a previous episode how Chris Aiken and I interviewed John Petrucci, and we actually asked him the question about, Aiken told him flat out that he thinks that they're undisciplined songwriters, and I said that they're extremely disciplined songwriters. So he just hit John Petrucci right across the chops with that question. So that's a topic for another time. We could bring that in and play that segment of the interview. Now that we're a member of the CMS Network, I can get access to that audio. So Cody says, no mention of Mangini's stint in Extreme. And again, that was one record, and he was actually a full-fledged member, so I don't know if that's a side project. And CMS Network says John knows nothing about Extreme, and that is correct.
Oh, man, I love Extreme.
Yeah, I was not. I mean, it just never grabbed me.
Three sides to every story. One of the greatest concept albums ever.
All my friends that love that band go to that album. I always thought it would be Porno Graffiti for some reason. I thought that was supposed to be like.
Oh man, no, it's just, man, it literally is like three different albums almost, but great album.
Yeah. I'll have to check it out, see if maybe it's something I can get into. I enjoy concept records, but Gibson Les Paul says Steve Vai Fire Garden Suite. I'm not familiar with it. Did one of the Dream Theater guys play on that, or is Gibson just throwing out cool guitar players?
I don't know. It's possible.
Are we getting called onto the carpet on our own show for not knowing something? Oh boy.
Yeah, we don't know the 5 million projects these guys have all done.
Yeah. SOB. Gibson Les Paul, last one says, was Beethoven undisciplined too? His Ninth Symphony is damn near 90 minutes. Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I mean,
Was that when he
I don't.
was that before or after he was deaf? You could blame it on that. Because he wrote entire pieces of music while he was totally deaf. So
Well, but he could still tell time. So, yeah.
good point.
I'm sorry, man. I will always disagree with Aiken on this. Just because something is long doesn't mean it's undisciplined. That's the difference. I mean, the long Dream Theater songs, they actually go somewhere. Most of them, anyway. We're going to get into that on another episode. We're going to talk about the really long tunes and kind of go through that. But all right, so let's get to your last selection, which when I found out that you were picking Sons of Apollo and you picked this one, I was like, you bastard. So I went, you know what? No. If we're doing Sons of Apollo, then I get to have this on my list as well. So take it away.
Sons of Apollo, King of Delusion.
Yes.
We got to
Yep.
see that performed live, and that was
So
absolutely
good.
awesome.
So good, man.
Serenian, like they rolled. Do you remember they rolled out like that little piano keyboard where he was sitting down and he played like right at the front of the stage,
Yeah.
and he played the intro or the intro parts of that and whatnot. And man, just such a haunting haunting classic, melancholy type of a theme on. It's more of a classical, like romantic classical, not so much Baroque, but it's just got that haunting melody to it, and it comes in and out of the song, and it's just like where did this come from? Like you're
Yeah.
just not. I mean, it does come in the beginning of the song, so it's not a total surprise that it shows up later, but it's just so cool how it fits in there. And I think the second Sons of Apollo, I don't think it's as strong overall as the first one. I think maybe there's like 3 or 4 songs I really love on it. But this is definitely probably my favorite on that one.
Yeah, it's my favorite on that one. I actually prefer MMXX a little over the first record. Again, you're splitting hairs. I mean, to me, they're both awesome. Um, yeah, dude, I'm a million percent on the same page with you. That creepy piano part is great, and this is an interesting example of a song where you have that creepy piano part, and then it does something totally different once the full band kicks in. But they put it together in such a way where it doesn't sound forced. It's like like a lot of the stuff that when I was listening to these side projects, you could hear that it was written quickly and then put out. A lot of it's very jam oriented in that respect, and so you'll hear like let's do this, and then all of a sudden it's just like now we're doing this, and then now we're doing this. Like there's not a lot of you know blending in a lot of the stuff. But this one is one of those weird ones where it's two basically different parts, and for some reason it blends amazingly well. And it does the creepy piano, and then it comes you're like whoa, and then it gets into the 3/4 time. It's like what the heck. And I mean, let's just say it, the part in the middle with the creepy drum, with only the creepy piano and the drums, is by far the standout moment of the record and one of the coolest pieces of music I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, to see that live, like we might never see that again because it's so hard for these guys to tour with their other projects and whatnot.
Yeah.
Especially because of COVID now. Dream Theater is going to want to try to cram as many tours and live shows as they can. So it's quite possible that we can't even see that band again. I wouldn't be totally shocked at this point, to be honest.
Well, I mean, do you think the audiences would cross over? Like, I mean, people like you and I. Let's say that Sons of Apollo were touring at the same time as Dream Theater. I think I can speak for you and say, wouldn't we go to one of each? I mean, I wouldn't say, oh, we got to pick one. I wouldn't anyway.
I would go to both. I just don't know that they have the time. If they'll set aside the time to tour and look at some of the places they were playing. Unfortunately, they just don't sell. And was it the House of Blues show that you went to? I ended up not going to, and there was barely.
Yeah.
It's just a shame that not enough people really appreciate that band and will go out and support them live.
Yeah, I mean, we saw them. God, that weekend was so funny because we were at that little bar in Battle Creek because the show was on Saturday night and we went out on Friday night just to kind of hang out, scope out the bar, and just kind of hang out, get some dinner and everything. And we go to the bar and there was literally God, it was some cover band playing who had like the best set list you'll ever hear, but they just couldn't play it very
Yeah.
well. And it was literally the guy's girlfriend was the whole crowd,
Yeah.
and so we did that the first night. It was like an audience of 3, and then I asked the door guy what the capacity was, and he points to the door, said 335, and I said, how many tickets have you sold for tomorrow night? And he said 332. We're like, oh boy. So we went from an audience of 3 to literally, assholes to elbows the next night. But yeah, I mean, seeing that, I mean, dude, think about, we'll never see a show like that ever again, because it was, I forget what the name of the first act was, but it was an instrumental guitar guy. I actually bought his record. I think it might, not really local, but I bought his CD. And then it was Tony McAlpine,
Yeah.
whose drummer was Achilles Priester. And then we saw Sons of Apollo. So you're getting like these unbelievably world-class musicians in this tiny little bar, and I think the tickets with fees were $27 a piece.
Yep.
Like, when are you ever going to see that again?
It's not going to happen, man. That's
No.
So you got to go to as many as you can, man. That's
Yeah.
what I keep saying,
Yeah, I did. I'm glad you're into doing that kind of stuff, because, like, I mean, I'm one of those people that, like, I mean, if I had nobody to go with to that show, I would have gone anyway. Like, I don't care. Yeah, I'm not missing that. It's like, to see stuff like that in a bar, it's
Yeah.
like, come on. I mean, you just, you think of going to a bar show and you're getting some hack band. It's like when I saw Marty Friedman at the Grog Shop. It's like,
Yep.
you get this absolutely world-class guitar player playing in front of 150 people. So, anyways, a little tangent there, but
Well, let's go back to a couple that didn't make the cut.
sure.
So one of mine that didn't make the cut and actually like their music is Jelly Jam. The reason it's John Mayung is and the reason I didn't make the cut is I can't tell the difference that it's either not King's X or not Tied Tabor's solo stuff.
Yeah.
Because that dude, I mean, he has the most uncanny, dead-on John Lennon vocal delivery in the history of music that I've ever heard. That's just how he sings. I mean, it's just
Right.
there's nothing. It's like, oh gosh, man, what a way to go through life. You sing like John Lennon. How horrible, But so when listening to this stuff, I have no idea that it's not his solo stuff. It doesn't sound quite as much like King's X, but there's a few elements in there. So I didn't pick that. But I will recommend, if you like King's X and you like Tied Tabor, that Jelly Jam stuff is actually probably better than some of his solo stuff.
Yeah.
We mentioned the Winery Dogs Reason, Transatlantic I mentioned. One band I didn't bring up was Black Country Communion. Derek Sherinian's in that. I already had Sherinian in some other stuff. And that's a really cool band. That's also one of those bands I think that maybe their albums could probably chop them down to 7-8 songs rather than 10-12.
Right.
Glenn Hughes is in there, obviously Joe Bonamassa, it's a great lineup, but I didn't end up picking any of their stuff for this either.
Right. Something that I tried to listen to that just didn't really grab me. I mean, I've heard it before and I was like, okay, maybe I was missing something. The Neil Morse Band. It's cool. But it's, for me, it's just something about it never really just grabbed me. So I can't say there was anything hugely memorable to me about it. So that was, one for me that I tried to get into and tried to throw on here. One that almost made my list that really kind of surprised me was the Flying Colors album. Since you were going with ex-members, that project that Portnoy did, that was a really cool kind of vibe to it. It's mellower, so it isn't something you would necessarily think that I would get into, but I kind of liked it. It was a little different, so it's definitely something I'm going to be listening to again. But in terms of making this list, it just wasn't as standout as a lot of stuff. I mean, I honestly could have just had all James Labrie stuff on here. I mean, this would have been an easier list for me if you would have just said, let's do our top 10 James Labrie solo songs.
Yeah.
like that would have been easier for me. So,
so if you were to go back, I will give you what I think are actually the best 2 albums out of these. And it's funny because I think one of them is one of the ones that Aiken said he hated.
Right.
So I actually think the last Labrie album is probably the best as far as song to song to song, is probably the best album. and then I would probably put the newest Petrucci as the second. As far as just like, I just don't think there's really skippers on those.
Man,
I'll even
that's
put those ahead of Sons of Apollo, which I know sounds kind of crazy, but
wow. Um,
I put Sons of Apollo third. Probably the first album would be third.
man, that's a tough one.
Did I just
Yeah,
an episode we should have like used later? Did I just throw one in the trash? Like, way to go,
exactly.
Hendrickson.
We should, yeah, it should have been like rank the albums that we picked our favorite side project songs from. Oh, there we go. Mangini played drums on Elements of Persuasion too. I forgot about that. Gibson, I don't feel like Googling in the middle of ending the show, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Marcos Fogli was the guitar player on that, and I love Marcos Fogli. That guy is amazing. I love his solo stuff. CMS Network says, great tune. Asphyxiation is better. Brilliant band, though. Yeah, he's a big Sons of Apollo guy. Yeah, that, man, how would I rank it? Like, see, Elements of Persuasion is so fresh to me right now that I almost feel like it's cheating to rank that one high. But I love the production on it, and I just love the heaviness combined with James's like classic vocal. So that's big. Obviously, I would probably agree with you on Impermanent Resonance, just because again the choruses are just so, they're just massive on the whole damn album. That is difficult, but one I will completely agree with you on is Terminal Velocity. That there's not a skippable song on that album, and it's, you would think for just a guitar album, I mean, it doesn't happen often where you can get through an entire instrumental and like everything's really interesting, and that's one of them. It, there's just something about the way that Portnoy and Petrucci play off each other. It's like, and definitely not, we're never ever going to do the, Portnoy versus Mangini discussion on the show because it's pointless. They're both phenomenal, but there's this weird kind of simpatico thing that, Portnoy and Petrucci had. And after not having played together for over a decade, on Terminal Velocity, it is still there, which is, it's a testament to musical chemistry. I think it's great.
Yeah, agreed.
Dynamite drop in, Monty.
Yeah. I wasn't sure what all you were looking for there on that one.
Yeah, nice. Well, all right. Well, on that note, why don't we close up for tonight? Want to thank everybody for hanging out in the chat. My buddy Chris Aiken, thanks again for putting us on the CMS Podcast Network, man. We much appreciate it. I love you for that. Thank you. Cody, good to see you again, man. Gibson Les Paul, our buddy Adam at the beginning of the show. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with us. It's always good talking to everybody. We'll be back in 2 weeks. I believe the date is Thursday, June 3rd. And it'll be at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as it always is. And we're actually going to be interviewing Wayne Joyner. He is actually the guy that did a bunch of like art for the Distance Over Time tour, and he actually is the guy that did all of the video and production work on the Distance Over Time tour. So that amazing presentation they had on stage, that was him. And apparently he's got some insight on the new record that he's going to provide, and he's doing some stuff for the current tour as well. So we'll be talking some Dream Theater 15 on the next episode. So don't forget that you can definitely go and find us, basically where all the audio podcasts are found. As we get more information on the CMS Podcast Network, we will be posting all of that, so you'll be able to find us all over the place there. So, all kinds of video platforms and audio platforms. So, with that, I am your host, John. He is my buddy, Brian, and we will see you guys in